Good evening and welcome to Mustang Arena for the last game of the first half of Season 16 of Mustang Basketball. My name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs and Sports Information Director here at Wekiva High School, and I will be joined shortly by Neil Fisher of the Apopka Chief for the call of this game. We are just under a minute from getting things started and looking forward to a great contest. Apopka, of course, a perennial powerhouse in Class 7A basketball, and Wekiva, an up-and-coming program in 6A. Of course, Wekiva made that state playoff run all the way to the championship game when Paul Reed was on the team, and Wekiva has had its ups and downs since then, but they are currently on and up. They are looking at potentially finishing this season with 20 wins or more if they can stay on the track that they are on right now and looking to be a playoff threat, perhaps more substantially than what we have seen from them in the last several seasons. So, as we get ready to welcome our fans in the house here to Mustang Arena, we invite you to join us for Friday night basketball action here on the last day of the fall semester. Live from South Apopka, our crosstown rivalry coming up next. Good evening, everyone. Wekiva High School welcomes you to Mustang Arena for Varsity basketball competition. Please welcome our guests from Apopka High School. They are the Blue Darters. And they'll be taking on your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Before we begin our game this evening, we ask that you please stand as we honor America with a presentation of colors by the Wekiva High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Tonight's detail is under the command of Cadet Lieutenant Corbin Heasley, carrying the U.S. flag. Carrying the Florida State flag is Cadet Airman Joshua Hamilton. And the Rifle Guards are Cadets Senior Airman Denard Bradley and Senior Airman Gavin Goings. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And now, let's meet the teams. We will begin with our guests from Apopka. And we'll start for the Blue Darters at shooting guard, 6'3" junior, number 3, Darren Leaf. At small forward, 6'6" sophomore, number 4, Jordan Ford. At forward, 6' senior, number 5, Philip Tepper. At point guard, 6'1" senior, number 12, Elijah Lewis. And finally, for the Blue Darters, at center, 5'9" junior, number 32, Carter Hankerson. The head coach of the Blue Darters, Mr. Scott Williams, with assistant coaches Major Jackson, Derek Miley, John Sears, Devin Stowers, and Terrence Thomas. And now, let's meet the starting lineup for your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Starting at guard, sophomore, number 1, Darius Livingston. At guard and forward, 6'4", junior, number 21, Wekiva Prophet. At guard, 6'3", senior, number 3, K.J. Robinson. At forward, 6'4", senior, number 4, Isaiah Bannister-Doucette. And finally for the Mustangs, at forward and center, 6'4", senior, number 0, Malachi Hampton. The head coach of the Mustangs, Mr. Justino Lubin, with assistant coaches Austin Banks and Charles Hardy. The officials for tonight's game are from the Central Florida Officials Association here in Orlando. We thank them for their dedicated service to our high school athletic programs and join them along with our participating schools, reminding everyone to make great sportsmanship a part of this and every athletic competition. Tonight's game is being broadcast live on YouTube, NFHS Network, and VarsitySportsNetwork.org. If you have friends or family on the other side of Apopka or anywhere in the world and they are not able to watch tonight's game here with us in person, just shoot them a link, let them know they can tune into the Wekiva Sports channel on YouTube or search for Wekiva on NFHS Network or go to VarsitySportsNetwork.org from their favorite computer, smart TV, or mobile device. And we want to welcome those of you who have done just that. My name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs, and Sports Information Director here at Wekiva High School. Neil Fisher will be with me for the call of tonight's game between these two perennial rivals. And Neil, we've gone back and forth over the years on whether or not Wekiva and Apopka are in the same classification and district, as we get a 3 from Wekiva Prophet to open up scoring for the Mustangs.
Yeah, again, thank you, Mark. As always, an excellent job to get things started. Wekiva, as you just heard Mark say, 3-0. Prophet dropping the first tray from the left wing. No dice on that shot. And, of course, these two teams, this is the equivalent, the high school equivalent, at least here in Central Florida, between Michigan, Ohio State, Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Auburn. These two schools just 5 miles apart, both in Apopka. As Prophet launches for a second time, off the mark, and a whistle as Leith pulls down the rebound.
Malachi Hampton calling his first personal foul. The team's first starter's ball at their own baseline. So as I started to say at the beginning of the...
There's also a lot of history, which...
As I started to say at the top of the broadcast before Wekiva Prophet rudely interrupted me, these are two schools that sometimes have been in the same district as each other and actually been district rivals. Other times they have not. Apopka, of course, a little bit higher student enrollment than Wekiva, so Apopka is always solidly in whatever the big school classification is, however many there are. Wekiva tends to waffle back and forth between the highest and second highest. So at this particular moment in history, as we get a 3-point basket from Jordan Ford, at this particular moment in the school's history, they are not in the same classification, not in the same district, so they will never meet each other in the postseason, but that doesn't really matter. You can count on this home and away series to be scheduled each and every season because it is a classic crosstown rivalry that goes back to the founding of Wekiva. Ever since there have been two schools in Apopka, there have been 2 games between the Mustangs and the Blue Darters.
Yeah, and those games are always played at the same time. I don't remember them ever not being played on the last Friday, the last day of the first semester, and then the last week of the regular season.
And that actually tracks with football as well, because it's always the last week of the football season.
Well, again, like I said, it's the high school equivalent of Michigan, Ohio State, Florida, Florida State, Auburn, Alabama. That was K.J. Robinson, who, to my point, as I mentioned a while before, is Hampton.
Malachi Hampton!
No basket. Saw the official wave it off immediately, but there is a foul. We're tied at 3-3, 5:55 first quarter.
So the foul occurred before the basket was attempted, and so the basket does not count, but the foul was called against Philip Tepper, his first, and the team's first.
So K.J. Robinson, that's actually Hampton who makes
Hampton on the
foul.
pass from Bannister.
But K.J. Robinson is a transfer this year from Apopka, and you can certainly see the difference. That's Bannister Doucette stepping in front like a defensive back, coming up with the pick, and that'll give Wekiva another opportunity. 5-3 lead for Wekiva. Hampton just going bank to put him ahead. Now Bannister Doucette will go to the line to try to further extend that lead here.
Foul called against Darren Leaf, his first, the team's second. It sends Isaiah Bannister to the line, shooting two.
So again, K.J. Robinson, last year Wekiva had a 5-game losing streak about 2/3 of the way through the season, and they lost all 5 of those games with Robinson out. And now, of course, Wekiva 8-1 this season. Apopka dropped to 4-4. Also want to mention, of course, if you're not familiar with Wekiva history, Scott Williams, the coach at Apopka, started the program here at Wekiva. He's also a math teacher, very good teacher, by the way, as well as a coach now with over 500 victories. And, of course, he coached them to their first semblance of success in the third year. They got into the playoffs under Coach Williams. And then in 2013, that was their sixth season. They advanced all the way to the Elite Eight, the regional final. They had a run after. Again, third year was the first year they made the playoffs. They then made the playoffs 4 out of the 5 years after that.
And I don't know what it is about basketball coaches being math teachers, but Scott Williams, a math teacher. Coach Lubin is also a math teacher. Coach Butts, who was at Wekiva for many years, also a math teacher.
Yeah, and of course, since you brought up Coach Lubin was recommended by Coach Williams when he made the decision to go up to Apopka. That's Hankerson taking the path and dropping in the deuce, 5-5.
Carter Hankerson adds 2 for the Darters.
So a very competitive game so far. Off the mark, Tepper ripping down the rebound. We'll come back the other way. Apopka, opportunity to get their first lead of the game as we are drop under 5 minutes, first quarter. And the scoop shot and score at 7-5 Apopka.
Darren Leaf with the go-ahead basket for the Darters. Down the baseline, Profit goes down, but the official said it was all ball. 2 blocks in a row for the Darters. Yes. 2 Mustangs go to the ground, no call.
And of course, as we get the shot from Lewis, no dice. Wekiva doing a nice job of crashing the board. Get that ball.
Nice pass, and it's Profit to Bannister.
Bannister Doucette.
Vosi Profit on the pass to Isaiah Bannister. Tie the game.
Tie at 7-7. Coach Williams' teams, they are known for their defense, and of course not there, unable to get back. At the other end, floating in the deuce is Leaf.
Darren Leaf, and we'll pause for a Mustang timeout. As, Wekiva caught flat-footed there. Easy transition play for the Darters. And you see Coach Williams expressing his approval as we get a 30-second timeout called by Wekiva. So back with more from Mustang Arena in just a moment. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. Mark Barchi here with Neil Fisher to take you through tonight's game. Halfway through the first quarter, and it's been back and forth. Neither team is led by more than one possession as we get a basket for the Mustangs by Darius Livingston.
So as I started to say before we went to the break, we get a whistle here. 3:45 first quarter, 9-9 in this Apopka crosstown rivalry. Coach Williams' team's known for their defense first and foremost. Of course, it's not uncommon in today's era, but they have a very certain and specific style. They like to get that ball up quickly, not necessarily shoot the ball quickly, but get up and start, and certainly that is a trademark of Coach Lubin's teams too. So not only are these teams geographical rivals, but a very, at least defensively and creating transition from that defense, very similar styles, somewhat different on offenses. Coach Lubin likes to use the motion offense, and Coach Williams likes to use more of a zone offense, if you will. Apopka took their first lead a couple minutes ago, chance to regain it, won't get it there. Battle between Hampton and Hankerson. And Mark also alluded at 3:17 remaining now, 9-all. Coach Mark alluded to the fact that these schools have their history as forward launches, can't find the range. Another shot, that's Tepper clearing the rebound, and he thought that he had a teammate. I think he thought that was Elijah Lewis.
And you saw the frustration on his face, zigged when he should have zagged, and the ball goes straight out of bounds.
So Apopka in the last 10, 12 years, certainly the more consistent team in terms of record as well as playoff appearances. I would have to look it up, but I do know that Apopka has made the playoffs, I believe, at least 7 times under Coach Williams, who's now his 9th year as everyone hits the deck. Not everyone, but that was Bracey and Hampton.
Held ball. Possession, Darters.
Where Wekiva's been much more inconsistent, of course. Lubin took over a team. He continued that tradition of getting them into the playoffs for several years, and then they had that poor dry spell. If you follow Wekiva history, you're familiar. Had 3 or 4 really lean years. Of course, in 2017, they got all the way to the state championship final. Paul Reed, the leader of that team, as Robinson unable to corral. Got his hand on it. Nice effort, but couldn't quite keep it in bounds. And then they got back to the playoffs the next year with a 13-13 record, pulled off a surprise. And actually, they upset Apopka. They were in the same district, as Mark talked about. That's an air ball. And now the other way, Wekiva, long pass, intercepted. That's Lewis. He hits the ground. And now we got all kinds of players hitting the ground. And finally, Charles, who came in during the break, picks it up and goes bang.
Charles for 2.
Right place, right time for Charles, the senior. And now another turnover. Wekiva going for 2 possessions, no dice. Charles can't find the range. And doing the Windex work is Bracey. And now back the other way, that's Leaf. Back out to Tepper, who loves to shoot those trays. Won't connect there. Hampton grabs that ball. And off to the races we go. Too hard. Charles taking a 3rd consecutive shot to make that a 4th. And it wouldn't have counted the travel.
Traveling, Darters ball.
So 1:37 first quarter, 11-9 lead for Wekiva. 3 lead changes so far.
Darren Marshall in the game for Apopka.
As well as 3 ties. So after the season after Wekiva, getting back to my story, Wekiva did qualify for the playoffs again. Then everybody lost. They did not have one player on the roster who had any varsity experience, and it showed as they won only 3 games. Of course, last year they returned back to the playoffs, and now they are off to an 8-1 start.
Foul called against Mustangs, number 33. Fannings Johnson is first, the team second.
The 8-1 start as Wekiva remains in that full court man-to-man. Best start ever in the history of Wekiva. Again, 2017, they made a run to the state championship final. They were 26-6. They were 7-2 after 9 games, 8-1 this season. Stop, pop, and drop for Ford. We're tied at 11-all now with a minute remaining. So Wekiva looking to continue that best start, looking to build some momentum as we are now moving into the middle part of the season. Apopka coming in at 4-4. Certainly they're still looking to find their basketball footing, so to speak. Charles with the scoop shot.
Out of Charles, and 1. Foul called against number 24, Adam Bracey is first, the team's 3rd. Checking into the game for Apopka number 32, Carter Hankerson. Charles shooting one.
And with that 8-1 start for Wekiva, really their forte, their bread and butter, if you will, has been being right time, right place as far as producing those runs, which have an impact on the game. Score of the free throw for Charles. That gives Wekiva a 14-11 lead, their largest of the game, with 50 seconds remaining. And now their full court defense remains intact. It's Fannings Johnson, one-on-one. Back the other way. Tepper unable to drop the tray, and doing some nice rebounding work is Livingston, the sophomore. And at the other end, 32.6 seconds remaining. Ball will remain with Wekiva. So I'm Neil Fisher. The other voice you hear in our public address announcer is Mark Barchi. Keith Dickinson overseeing the video aspects. He's the director of broadcast production department. His students handling the video aspects, doing the actual work. And now Johnson over to Rao. And a quick whistle. Foul on Tepper as his first. 14.4 seconds, first quarter. Wekiva scoring 5 consecutive points. Certainly an opportunity for them to close out this first quarter with momentum. That is Roll, one-on-one. Back out to Charles, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. I'm not sure Wekiva knows there's only 2 seconds. And now Livingston has to launch and score the tray.
There's Livingston from downtown. And that will be the last word of the first quarter. 6-point advantage for the Mustangs at the end of 8 minutes here in this district rivalry matchup. Blue Darters versus Mustangs to wrap up the first half of the season.
So Wekiva on an 8-0 run when we... And welcome back to Mustang Arena, home of the Wekiva Mustangs, where they are enjoying a 17-11 lead over the crosstown rival Apopka Blue Darters. About 5 miles separating two. Wekiva on an 8-0 run, not only taking the lead, but extending the lead to 6 points. And no dice on that to even catch rim. Give the rebound to Hakinson as we begin the second quarter. Wekiva on defense, Apopka on offense. Apopka looking to get over 500, a 4-4 record. Of course, Apopka under Coach Williams, perennial state playoff contender at the very least. Tie that game where cuts the 8-0 run, 17-13.
Basket by Darren Leaf.
And the steal, opportunity to get a couple baskets in a row, but Apopka unable to convert. So definitely, as is always the case when these two schools meet, an eclectic and electric atmosphere at Mustang Arena. Certainly, as we mentioned, geographical rivals, so you always circle this game. But both these teams come in with the story. The fadeaway, no dice for Charles. And clearing the glass is Lewis, and he'll draw the foul as he tries to cross midcourt.
Foul called against Mustangs number 1. Darius Livingston, his first, team's third. Checking in for Apopka, Jordan Ford and Philip Tepper.
So also mentioned this through in spurts during the first quarter, Mark, but there is history, as you would expect, between these schools, only 5 miles apart. Coach Williams, the Apopka coach, now started the Wekiva program back in '07 when the school opened. Took them to their first ever playoff berth in their third season. As Apopka continues to rotate that ball on the left side, intercepted. Bad bounce pass. Charles, right place, right time. Off to Livingston. Rattles in and out. Battle underneath. Charles, who started that play, got the ball up in the mix under the basket. So certainly an A for effort on Charles. And
managed to get it to go off the darters going out of bounds. It's like, well, if I can't have this, you're not having it either. So
yeah, and so when Coach Williams left Apopka, or left Wekiva for Apopka, that was Charles. Unable to get it, but
Isaiah Bannister tips it back in for 2.
19-13. Give Doucette credit for a rebound as well as the basket. Back out to the top. Way off the mark by Ford, who did drop a tray in the first quarter. Actually, the first 3 points for Apopka.
Fouls called against Darters number 24, Adam Bracey, his second, team's 5th.
And so when Coach Williams left Wekiva for Apopka, he did recommend Coach Lubin take over his position, and the administration at the time agreed with him. Coach Lubin now is his 9th season at Wekiva. Apopka in his Coach Williams in his 9th season at Apopka. Of course, Coach Williams 500-plus victories. The state championship coach, 1998 Mount Dora Class 4A. As we now get double teaming. Good job by Livingston to break it over to Johnson. Contact, no foul. Comes up short and Tipper picks up that loose ball. Quick passing down to the left corner. That's Ford attacking the lane, and now he launches and scores the deuce from 8 feet.
Jump shot from Jordan Ford. That takes it to a 4-point ball game, 19-15 the score, 5.5 to go in the second, and layup for the Mustangs, Darius Livingston.
Beautiful interior passing, Mark, to get that ball to Livingston. He took the second of 2 passes, and now a turnover on the foul. So Wekiva an opportunity to get the lead up to 8 or even 9 points. 5:17 for second quarter. So mention what Apopka comes in at 4-4. Uncharacteristic, a team that, again, regularly under Coach Williams contends for state playoff berths at the very least. Certainly in those 9 years, they've made it more times than not into the playoffs. And the schedule has something to do with that. They've taken victories over Bartow, West Orange, Lake Buena Vista, as well as Horizon. No basket there. Hankerson getting his big body in the way and ripping down the rebound. And Apopka losing to Central Florida Christian Academy, Lake Mineola, Masters Academy, and Edgewater as the traveling. Beautiful defense by Wekiva. They've remained in that full court, man-to-man throughout. Of course, Wekiva under Coach Lubin. That's their mantra. That's their bread and butter. About 90% of the time, they're in that man-to-man full court defense. So, to close out my thought about Apopka's schedule, again, 4-4. They've beaten the 4 teams they were supposed to, the 4 teams they were the favorite, and they lost the 4 games in which they were the underdog. One thing, though, I would like to point out, though, about Coach Williams, Mark, and of course, we were calling the games here at Wekiva when Coach Williams was, so we're very familiar. Coach Williams is one of the best I've ever seen as Hampton shoots. No go on that tray. Long outlet pass and great save. Back up to Tepper. Tepper unable to find his range. I don't think he's made a tray or a mid-range shot tonight. Very uncharacteristic. This is Robinson again. He's a Apopka transfer, speaking of history. As we approach 4 minutes now. Got a pair of threes going at Leith against Robinson. Leith wins the battle but can't get the ball to drop. Second attempt. And Hampton clearing the boards again. And wild pitch.
Yeah, that was one of those where there was a fracas going on, and I think
had like 3 different confrontations going on.
Yeah, Robinson, I think, was more concerned with not getting leveled than he was with actually getting to the ball, which is understandable. That's just instinct.
Yeah, again, that ball came right here in front of my scorer's table, so it wasn't that he was just afraid to take contact. Splash!
3 for Jordan Ford.
So again, Coach Williams, one of the better coaches I've ever seen at getting his team to improve and reaching the peak in terms of the quality of play as the playoffs approach. And again, I brought that up because Apopka comes in with an uncharacteristic 4-4, 500 record as we get a stoppage now, I believe.
It's going to be an injury timeout.
Yeah, injury timeout. 21-18 now as Ford cut that lead to 3 with the tray. 3:42 first quarter. Teams went back and forth for about 3 minutes in the first quarter. 3 lead changes, 3 ties. Apopka on an 8-0 run at the end of the second quarter. And the lead's gone back and forth between 3 and 5 points since then. Oh, quick hands by Bracey. 1-on-1 in the basket against Hampton and scores the withdrawal.
David Marshall takes it to a 1-point game. Full court pressure coming on, and good defensive work there. Well, maybe a little bit too good. As we get a darter foul is called against number 12, Elijah Lewis, his first. The team's 7th. That puts the Mustangs into bonus. At the line, shooting 1-1 for Wekiva will be number 3, KJ Robinson.
So KJ Robinson going to the school, going back to the line. KJ facing his former teammates. And again, they haven't talked a lot about that. Can't get the first free throw to drop. But Hampton with the rebound. That'll give him an extra opportunity. Wekiva can't convert. The free throw too long, ricocheted off the rim and out of bounds, a Apopka ball. So, but again, this is a rivalry matchup. 5 miles separating the two teams, both in Apopka. And
Darius Livingston returns the game for Wekiva.
And there's been a lot of history talked about the coaches, but also the players. A number of players transferring from one school to the other. When those positions, when you get graduations at the school they transfer to, as we get a whistle on that drive and attack. That was 24, Bracey.
Isaiah Bannister is called on the foul. It's his first, the team's 4th. That sends Bracey to line shooting 2.
So Bracey with 2 points. And you just heard Mark, who, if you joined us late, is the public address announcer for Mustang Arena, Wekiva Athletics. Say that is the 4th team foul for Wekiva. Apopka does have 7, so that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, Wekiva will be going to the free throw line the rest of the way. 3 minutes remaining in this first half. In the latest edition, if you want to call it, the Tater Bowl, as Bracey sinks both free throws. And now Apopka back in the lead for the 3rd time tonight by 1 point. Back the other way as the clock drops under 3. That's Robinson, 1-on-1 with Lewis. Back out to Hampton. You can hear the Apopka bench rise, urging their defense on. That's Livingston. Stop, pop, no drop. Hampton swats at the ball, can't corral it. That was Bracey getting a hand on it, but I believe we're going to have
held ball, possession,
held
Darters.
Ball. So give Hampton credit on that rebound. He got the ball, then lost it, but then Hampton, he was able to get his hand back in position to call the held ball. It does go back to Apopka, but certainly no lack of try. Back out to the top. Lewis swings it over. Left, now back up to Lewis. 2.5 first half. Back out to Leith. And Leith having some trouble, and now he throws the air and pass. Livingston picks it up, 1-on-1 against Leith. And I believe that's going to be goaltending.
Score the basket, goaltending. Darius Livingston picks up 2 for Wekiva. And that's one that was a bad move by Apopka because that basket was not going to go in. Yeah, that basket was never going to go in. But because of the goaltending call, it will count anyway. Now Apopka gets caught in the backcourt getting double teamed. Elijah Lewis in trouble, and Scott Williams will call timeout.
At 2:07 remaining, and we'll get to this when we come back, but there are a number of celebrities. Not only do we have a great geographical intra-city rival, but the celebrities have come out. 1 point lead for Wekiva when we come back.
Welcome back to Mustang Arena. 2:07 to go here in the second quarter, and it's been a back-and-forth contest. Neither team really able to build much momentum in either direction. We've had it up to maybe a two-possession game at most as we get an inside pass to Carter Hankerson to retake the lead for Apopka.
Yeah, beautiful pass.
Now 4 lead changes so far. Excuse me, well, 8 total lead changes. Each team's been in the lead 4 times.
And an errant pass. So certainly a very spirited game, as you would expect. But Mark, of course, the last couple of years, 2-3 years, we've talked about this. Apopka certainly has the better quality of talent, the more diverse skill set. Always a spirited game, but this time we get some talent, some competitiveness to go with the fan spirit. About 200 in attendance tonight.
And now Apopka must have caught whatever bug was going around at the other end of the court because they make exactly the same mistake.
And mentioned before the break, we do have a celebrity in the house tonight. At least if you follow high school basketball, Mark Grizik, the coach at Windermere, has come and watched a couple of his buddies, Coach Lubin, for Wekiva, Coach Williams, for Apopka, as that ball was swatted away.
Nice work by Bannister, though, keeping the play alive, and that's Bannister on the pass to Vosi Prophet.
So Prophet.
Although really Bannister gets credit for that one.
25-24 lead for Wekiva, 1 minute remaining. And Coach Grizik, as Tipper gets the bounce, and Wekiva back in the lead, 26-25.
Basket by Philip Tipper.
Picked up Coach Grizik, Mark Grizik, picking up his 500th career victory as a head coach last week. As Livingston can't find the range. And now getting some double team right in front of our bench. The ball goes out of bounds. Coach Williams barking out instructions to his players. 39.4 seconds remaining. 26-25 lead for Apopka. We've had multiple changes throughout this first half. Wekiva, an 8-0 run, took the lead going into the second quarter. Apopka answered, and we've had 5 lead changes in the last minute and a half as Tepper ricochets off, skying for the rebound. Charles, quick pass, another quick pass under the Prophet from Livingston. Good defense by Apopka, getting back in time. That opening closed up very quickly. Charles settles down the offense, hands off to Livingston, 10 seconds. Both teams calling out the time. It's 5 seconds now. Charles, stop, pop, and drop. Strokes the deuce.
Charles will get the last word of the half, and it sends the Mustangs into the locker rooms with a 1-point lead. 27-26 is your score at intermission. Blue Darters versus Mustangs as we cap off the first half of season 16 right here at Mustang Arena.
So 9 lead changes in that first half. Of course, the big swing was an 8-0 run by Wekiva. Apopka came back and answered with a 5-0 run, and we've been going back and forth since then. We'll be back with the second half in this intra-city rivalry between Wekiva and Apopka, 5 miles separating the two schools.
Welcome back to Mustang Arena. It's a one-point ball game. 27-26 is the score coming back from the break. The Mustangs have the opening possession of the third quarter.
So we begin the second quarter. Certainly what you would expect and want out of a rivalry game. Once again, Apopka and Wekiva both in the city of Apopka. Apopka on the northeast side and Wekiva on the southeast side. Only 5 miles separating the two. We have had 9 lead changes and 5 ties. Wekiva with possession to start this second quarter. Your leading scorer for them is Livingston with 9 points. And supplementing him is Charles, 7, of course. Abia Charles coming off the bench. Apopka remaining in the full court man-to-man. Both these teams have actually gone full court man-to-man throughout these games. Blocked. And Bannister Doucette unable to bring it down at the other end. Lewis looked like he had a clear path, and he won't get the basket, but it's certainly a foul in order to stop him from scoring.
Foul called against number 3, KJ Robinson. That's his first tonight. Team's first of this half. That'll send the Darters to the free throw line. Elijah Lewis shooting 2.
And so Lewis at the line looking to tie this game or even take the lead for Apopka. Leading scorer for both teams is Jordan Ford of Apopka. He has 10 points, includes a pair of trays. Opportunity goes by the wayside on that first free throw. Wekiva keeps the 1-point lead. So talk about both these teams, and certainly a change from what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years. Apopka's come in the better team with better record, higher expectations than Wekiva. This year, Wekiva comes in 8-1, its best start ever after 9 games. Apopka at 4-4, looking to get over 500. Apopka, of course, as usual, has had a very difficult schedule. That's another trait, as well as man-to-man defense by Coach Williams' teams.
Yeah, that's a trademark of his. He has no problem taking his lumps early on in the season. He would much rather be ready to go win a state championship with 5 or 6 good quality losses on his record than to have a perfect record going into the postseason and then bow out in the regional quarterfinals.
Yeah, and I brought that up because the rankings reflect that difficult schedule. Score remains 27-26, Wekiva with the lead. They are ranked number 45 in the Max Prep rankings as a whistle is called, and no turnover. But certainly that slows down the Wekiva. They have to reset their momentum. So 45th in the Class 7A rankings across the state. That's Max Prep rankings. Now that is with the record at 3-4. Like I mentioned, they're 4-4. So that does not include their last victory. And Wekiva, who keeps possession, that's Charles Livingston, releases, rattles in and out. And nice rebound by Lewis, got his body in the way. And Apopka another opportunity to retake the lead. Minute and a half into the second half. Nice pass, bullet pass to Hankerson, who floats in the deuce. And Apopka
Hankerson retakes the lead for Apopka.
So the 10th lead change of the game. And make that 11 as Wekiva answers quickly.
Isaiah Bannister retakes the lead for Wekiva.
And now an opportunity to get that lead further up. And no problem.
Malachi Hampton on the transition dunk.
Hampton slashing through that middle, taking the pass, no starting. And now Coach Lubin goes to the double team. Apopka breaks it, gets it up quickly. And that's going to have a residual effect, though. Hampton at the other end. And he gets whacked as he goes up for that field goal.
Took it on the chin quite literally there as Malachi Hampton draws the foul. He'll be at the line shooting 2 for the Mustangs. Foul is called against Darters Elijah Lewis, his second, the team's first. Now, of course, that was a rough trip to the ground there.
So Apopka, or Wekiva, again, the 8-1 ranking. And the entire... again, these are the Max Prep rankings as now a 4-point lead. Hampton dropping in that first free throw, 5 points for him. Class 6A, they are ranked number 4 behind Oak Ridge, Olympia, Mount Verde. Actually, excuse me, that's the Central Florida area. They're ranked number 4 as the lead now up to 5 points.
Stolen. Charles, transition, doesn't have it at the baseline, goes out to Robinson. He doesn't have it either. Livingston now finds wide open Charles, and just a little bit too much heat on the baseline jumper. But you got to love the momentum that's flowing in Wekiva's direction right now as we get into these middle minutes of the third quarter. But that'll change as we get a 3 from Elijah Lewis.
So Apopka continues to answer when they need to. Class 6A max prep rankings as Hampton.
Beautiful pass and just as beautiful of a block by Carter Hankerson.
No foul. So in the Central Florida area, max prep rankings, Wekiva number 4 with a 9-1 record behind Mount Verde, Olympia, and Oak Ridge. That's 3-2-1. Class 6A, the entire state, they are actually ranked number 2 behind Dwyer of Palm Beach Gardens. And then in the entire all classifications, number 15.
K.J. Robinson to Isaiah Bannister. And a steal at the other end. Bannister picks it up, throws it ahead of him to Livingston. Opportunity to go ahead by 3 possessions. Out to Charles. He's got it. Elliot Charles. 3. And the Darters will take a timeout. 30-second timeout requested by Apopka.
Apopka on a 10-2 run, 7-point lead when we return from Mustang Arena, the Tater Bowl. And Wekiva on a 10-2 run over the last 2 minutes and 15 seconds or so. I did say Apopka, so when we went to the break, I was wrong, made a mistake with this quick action. Apopka scoring the first basket to take a 1-point lead. And again, Wekiva
stolen by K.J. Robinson. Now a chance to make it a 4-possession game. Launches the tray, and it's short. Off the rim, 4.5 to go.
That 10-2 run, which has put Apopka in the lead by 7, has been facilitated by turnovers. That last possession, that was the 4th turnover in 5 possessions for Apopka. And the alley-oop, that almost went in. That was a circus shot, but did not go in. Wekiva rewarded for its defense, and now Apopka were rewarded for its defense as well. And so now we get a little bit of a settling down, and that's Marshall
3 for David Marshall.
38-34. Wekiva lead. Wekiva looking to go 10-1, its best start ever, as Hampton, yes!
Malachi Hampton gets 3 and an Oscar nomination. Referee did not buy it on the contact, but the tray still counts. Now Livingston gets in the way of the pass, releases, and that shot is blocked by Marshall. So clean block, but Wekiva will keep possession.
5 turnovers in the third quarter for Apopka. 3:26 remaining, 41-34 lead for Wekiva. Both teams with 1 foul, so fouls would not play a role, at least for a while. That's Hampton looking to inbound from the baseline out to Prophet. Whoa, almost came loose, and then it does. The quick pass to Leaf, and Charles.
Now, you know what? That's a great play. He didn't actually get the steal,
No,
but that's the only way that you prevent that basket without drawing a foul.
Yeah, wide open shot for Leaf following the turnover. So mention Wekiva has Apopka with 5 turnovers in this third quarter. Now Wekiva's starting to have some trouble handling the ball too. They've turned it over a couple of times in the last 3 possessions. That's Tipper, still can't find the range. I do not believe that Philip Tepper has made a 3-pointer tonight.
And the officials there ruling that touched the back side of the backboard equipment, so that's the same as being out of bounds on the rebound, so it'll be a team rebound for Wekiva. 3 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Wekiva up 7.
It's Robinson, down low to Rawl, who pops and drops along the baseline from 6 feet.
Austin Roll on the spin move for 2.
Now the lead up to 9, largest of the game for Wekiva. Apopka needs to get a score, and they do. As Adam Bracey
picks up 2 for the Darters. And now we got a foul. Foul called against Darters number 12, Elijah Lewis, his 3rd personal foul, the team's 2nd of this half. Mustangs ball at the sideline.
Charles will inbound, 2:38 remaining. Wekiva looking to get that lead back up to 9, which would tie the largest of the game. And maybe even 10.
K.J. Robinson from downtown. That would have been a 3 in the NBA.
Yeah, about 7 feet behind the arc. And Bracey
beautiful block by Hampton.
Robinson with the ball. Stop, go, drive, attack, and he draws the foul.
Yeah, K.J. Robinson got a face full of temper. No, excuse me, that's Elijah Lewis. Elijah Lewis called on the foul. That's his 4th. The team's 3rd. And now we'll get some substitutions. I thought it was going to be against Tepper, but it turned out it was against Lewis, which is bad news for Lewis as he picks up his 4th.
And, of course, he has to take a seat. Tepper also on the bench for Apopka. Smacked away by Hankerson. Give him credit. All ball there, perfect position. Long outlet.
We've seen a lot of that tonight. I mean, I haven't been keeping the stats here at the table, but I feel like we've had a much higher than average number of block shots on both sides of the ball.
3 attempts, and finally, Hankerson.
Second chance basket for Carter Hankerson. We'll now pause for a Mustang timeout.
Yeah, so Coach Lubin.
30-second timeout called by Wekiva.
Coach Lubin seeing something he didn't like, even though they do have that 8-point lead. 1:52 remaining from Mustang Arena, Wekiva Mustangs Athletic Network.
Welcome back to Mustang Arena. 46-38 the score. Wekiva being in control for about the last, I'd say about 6 minutes of play, maybe 5 or 6 minutes of play.
Most of the third quarter. Again, Apopka scored the first basket, took a 28-27 lead, and then a 10-2-0 run by Wekiva. And as Mark just said, it's been all Wekiva since then. In this crosstown rivalry, if you're new, if you're tuning in, thank you. And this is the Apopka rivalry, sometimes known as the Tater Bowl. That's Livingston. He can't get the ball to drop.
Swatted out of bounds by Carter Hankerson, so it'll stay with the Mustangs. And I don't know that it's fair to characterize it being all Wekiva for most of the third quarter. Apopka has gotten the interrupted every couple of possessions with the basket of their own, keep the game from getting out of control.
Yeah,
but Wekiva certainly has seen consistent momentum that we have not seen from either team up until this point in the game. But now Apopka has an opportunity to get an unanswered basket off the steal from Ford, but they will not as Malachi Hampton gets the rebound, and we've got about 80 seconds to go here in the third quarter.
Take a quick note here, too. Want to wish our broadcast production department teacher, head of that department, as well as the head, I guess you call him our director, the man who's overseen the video aspects for the last 7-8 years, as long as we've been doing these broadcasts. It's Keith Dickinson. This is actually his very last game in those two positions, as he will be moving on to a new job. Wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, certainly what we have been able to do here at Wekiva in terms of our broadcast production, going far above and beyond what the robo camera can do. That is largely thanks to the partnership that we have with Wekiva TV Broadcast Production, being able to get some multi-camera and some better equipment in here, and that's been something that we've just kind of gradually grown year over year since we started live streaming. That was around, 2018, I believe?
Yeah, I believe this is our 8th season. And that's Hankerson. He can't get the deuce to drop, but does draw the foul.
Carter Hankerson is fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2 for the Blue Darters. Fouls called against Mustangs number 11, Austin Roll, his first, the team's second. So, yeah, certainly, I think of the last couple of seasons, particularly 2 seasons ago, when we couldn't have a lot of in-person attendance, and a lot of schools were really caught flat-footed by that because they did not have the infrastructure set up to be live streaming. And we were saying, well, we actually know how to do that. We've been doing that for a while now. Now it's become not just wanted but needed. And so, again, that really all goes back to the partnership that we have forged between Wekiva Athletics and Wekiva TV Broadcast Production, and that is thanks to a lot of cooperation and extra hours put in by Keith Dickerson. So, again, our thanks to him and his whole program, and our best wishes to him as he moves on, and we're going to continue to build on that legacy that he has established here at Wekiva as we get a foul on the other end.
Yeah, that was Varsity Prophet trying to drive that lane.
Foul called against Darters number 32, Carter Hankerson. That's his first, the team's fourth. Sends Varsity Prophet to the line, shooting 2.
I also want to send out a congratulations to Mark Grizik, who has joined us tonight. Of course, Mark Grizik, the coach at Windermere, formerly coached at Olympia, as well as P.K. Young. He picked up his 400th career victory last week as a head coach. And, of course, Coach Grizik, and this is not unusual, pretty much find this in a lot of specific fields in occupations. He's very close with both these coaches, Gersina Lubin for Wekiva and Scott Williams for Apopka. As a matter of fact, Coach Grizik was an assistant to Coach Williams for a couple of years before Windermere opened. As both free throws drop for Prophet, finds a nice stroke. Wekiva back with the 8-point lead, half a minute to go. That's Tepper. The ball rolls over to Ford. Some break there for Apopka. Can't get the ball to drop, though, on the shot. And the third attempt goes for Marshall. Down to 6 points.
David Marshall on the putback.
End of the third quarter. And it looks like Wekiva's going to set up for the last shot. That's Livingston. One-on-one with Leaf. 10 seconds now. Of course, Livingston drained the rain at the end of the first quarter. And into Bannister Doucette, who makes the withdrawal from the bank as the buzzer
Livingston
foul.
to Bannister for the last word of the third quarter. And that puts it up to an 8-point ball game. Wekiva scoring at the buzzer in each of the last 2 periods to extend their lead. 50-42 is your score with 8 minutes left to play in the first half of season 16. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. 50-42. The Mustangs with an 8-point advantage to start off the fourth and final quarter here at Mustang Arena. We are wrapping up the first half of the season in traditional fashion as the Darters will have the opening possession of the fourth period.
Yeah, and Wekiva, of course, they're off to a 9-1 start. Best start ever, even better than the 2017 state runner-up team. They were 7-2 after the first 9 games. and they took that lead on a 10-2 run. That is Ford unable to drop another tray. Got a couple of field goals in the first possession, the first couple of minutes. Ford's been quiet from beyond the arc since then. Apopka, on the other hand, 4-4, uncharacteristic 500 for Coach Williams. Ball slides off the rim. Bannister Doucette with the rebound and was
out of bounds. Mustangs ball. We saw the one official who was nearest the play did not get a good, clean look at it, so he looked to the other official for help, and the ruling was in Wekiva's favor.
And if you joined us late, if you're not familiar with the Apopka high school basketball, this is a rivalry very much like at the college level. Michigan, Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Florida State. Only 5 miles separating these schools, both in Apopka. Wekiva on the southeast side. We're at Mustang Arena, Wekiva's home court. And they're in the white jerseys. That's Profit getting that loose ball after Marshall tipped it. And now over to, that was Kerry Davis, who I believe is seeing his first action at the other end. Hankerson completes the transition, making the
Carter
draw.
Hankerson adds 2.
Apopka on the northwest side, heading towards Lake County as a whistle.
Foul called against Darters. Number 3, Darren Leith, his 3rd personal foul, the team's 5th. Malachi Hampton returns to the game for Wekiva.
So 10 lead changes in this game. However, none since the second possession of the 3rd quarter when Wekiva took the lead. And they have been in the lead since then. As we 1 minute into this 4th and final quarter. That's Livingston, who uses the bank. Nice shot.
There is Livingston.
Nice
11 points
touch
for him tonight.
And at the other end, Hankerson battling with Bannister Doucette. Can't get the ball to drop off the bank. The long outlet. And Wekiva catches something of a break there with Livingston tracking it down. But the luck does not continue. Back at the other end, Leith. And another off the bank shot.
Darren Leith, coast to coast. 8 points for him.
6-point lead now for Wekiva. The launch. And drain the ring.
3 for Malachi Hampton.
And that's a momentum shifter, Mark.
Yeah,
Back
things
up
had
to
just
9.
started to go Apopka's way.
And they were making inroads into a lead. Again, Apopka has not had the lead since the second possession of the second half. And Coach Williams, very adamant, came all the way past the half court.
Foul called against number 3, KJ Robinson of the Mustangs, his 2nd, the team's 3rd.
And as you would imagine, this has been a very spirited game as far as the fans, the emotions, the cheerleaders to our right, sitting behind Apopka's basket to try and score now. Been very loud throughout the game, only sitting for a few minutes. About 300 fans now in attendance as we come down to the last 6 minutes.
Full timeout called by the Blue Darters.
And so when we return, we'll see if Apopka can get that lead under 6 points. They now trail by 9. 6 minutes remaining from Mustang Arena. The latest edition of the Tater Bowl. That's Apopka and Wekiva. Wages on. Wekiva has led for most of the second half. They took the lead on the second possession. That was the start of a 10-2 run, now a 55-56 lead. That ties them for the largest of the game. And Wekiva in the white jerseys making life difficult for Apopka. And Apopka unable to get that tray. Nice rebounding for Tepper. He can't get the second attempt. Still short. And finally on the fourth attempt, it's Carter Hankinson.
Carter Hankinson on cleanup detail for the Darters. Will pause for an injury timeout as Isaiah Bannister went down hard, and he is holding his head.
Yeah, there was a lot of action, a lot of contact underneath the basket on that last possession. And the ball, some of that was due to the ball. It didn't roll all the way like outside the three-point arc, but certainly usually the ball comes down within the paint, and none of those shots actually did. There was a lot of hands getting on that and tipping that ball outside the paint. So right now, can't really see what's going on from my vantage point with Isaiah Bannister-Doucette, who, by the way, has 10 points tonight. Of course, Apopka is huddled around Coach Williams right in front of him. 55-58, a 7-point lead for Wekiva with 5:18 remaining in this game. Of course, this is a Metro Conference rivalry, but as we have said throughout this entire night, it's one of those games you circle on the calendar. It's the high school equivalent of Michigan versus Ohio State, Auburn versus Alabama, Florida versus Florida State. It's as much geographical, and geographical, of course, also means as now we can hear the crowd cheering.
Isaiah Bannister shaking up on the play as he makes his way off with the assistance of our athletic training team. So he certainly got his bell rung, and he is limping a little bit as he comes off, but he is coming off on his own power, and that's certainly good to see. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him for the rest of the night, or at least for a few minutes as he tries to recover. But meanwhile, that's something we I don't think have talked a lot about this game, Neil, is that Wekiva uniquely this season has a bench. Like you've got the 5 starters, and the 5 starters are phenomenal.
Yeah, they're deep.
But if you lose one of the starters, either for foul trouble or an injury or something like that, where they're not getting as much minutes as maybe you'd like them to have, that's not necessarily a problem in the way that it has been in the past for Wekiva.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Lubin yesterday. Of course, if you joined us late, I am the lead reporter for Wekiva High School Athletics for the Apopka Chief. I talk a couple times each week, just one-on-one with Coach Lubin. And he did mention the word depth. It's not so much the fact that they have 5 guys returning from last year. They're all seniors. And then they have 7 guys in total, as K.J. Robinson and Austin Rawl transferred to the program with significant varsity experience. But they're players who can play a variety of roles. They're not just 1 or 2 roles. And that's Hampton unable to drop the deuce. Tepper clearing the board. So an opportunity for get that lead back down to 5 or even 4. And possession will remain with Apopka.
But nice work there by Robinson and Charles, double teaming the Darters there.
And as an example, Coach Lubin mentioned in their last game, which was against Jones, Wekiva fell behind in that game 8-0, and Lubin went to Austin Rowe, and he came in and gave him instant firepower. And so I asked Coach Lubin, is that pretty much what his role is going to be for the time being, score that deuce off the bank for Marshall.
David Marshall.
And Coach Lubin was very emphatic about the fact they said, well, yeah, in that particular case, Rowe did, but he's not the only person that has done that. And I didn't put Rowe in specifically for him to score when we were down 8-0. I just put him in because we needed to settle down. We were playing out of our game in such an intense atmosphere. Again, that was against Jones as the ball rattles in and out after the Livingston shot. And when he said that, Mark, of course, I thought back, and I did think of a couple of other players. No dice on that tray for Ford. Ford dropping a couple of trays in the first 3 or 4 possessions for Apopka. He has not scored since then. As now we drop under 4 minutes. Wekiva needing some points to reestablish the 3-possession lead, and they'll get the opportunity via the free throw line.
Juju Johnson fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2 for the Mustangs. Foul called against Philip Tepper, his 3rd, the team's 6th of this half.
So as we mentioned throughout this game as well, this is the last game of the first half of the 2022-23 season for both these teams. It also concludes the first semester of the school year. And this is also a tradition. Off the top of my head, of course, I have to look back at the records, and I don't think we have any definite records after about 12 years, but I do not remember these two teams playing the first time. Both these teams, because they're geographical rivals, played twice. The first of those two games is always played on that last day of the first semester. As the lead back now up to 7, a more comfortable lead for Wekiva to work with. Apopka with the quick shot. Air ball from Ford, who's still trying to find the range. And Johnson grabbing that ball and drawing the foul. Opportunity to get the lead now back up to 3 possessions.
Foul called against number 5, Philip Tepper. That's his 4th personal foul, the team's 7th, and it puts the Mustangs into bonus. At the line, shooting 1-1, number 33, Juju Johnson. So Johnson was just at the charity stripe a moment ago and picked up his first 2 points of the game as he went 2 for 2.
And as you mentioned, Mark, that's the 4th foul on Philip Tepper. Tepper, of course, the leading scorer coming into this game. He's an intimate part as Hampton unable to get the deuce. And he has been held quiet tonight, only 2 points. At the other end, the drive, the slash, the dash, and the foul.
Elijah Lewis fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2 for the Darters. Mustang foul called against Juju Johnson is 2nd, the team's 4th.
So the next game, Wekiva is off next week, as is usually the case, and then they will be playing in the Centralia Holiday Tournament December 28th, 29th, and 30th. Of course, that's being held at Centralia High School. And where is Centralia, you ask? Centralia is in southwest Illinois, about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of St. Louis. It's a very prestigious tournament. This will be the 79th annual time they run that tournament. And Wekiva will play KIP at 10 a.m. on December 28th. It is a double. Each team is guaranteed, I believe it's 5 games looking at the bracket. But, of course, if you lose one game, you are no longer eligible to win the championship. The best you can do is 3rd. So free throw does not drop. That keeps the lead at 57-51. Wekiva still with the 6-point lead. 3:26 remaining. They took the lead and started a 10-2 run on the second possession of the second half. And this is Robinson who just pulls up and splash!
K.J. Robinson for 3!
So the former Blue Darter, well, that's got to be a dagger to the Blue Darters, as that 10-point lead is now the largest of the game for Wekiva.
Foul called against Mustangs, number 11, Austin Roll, his 2nd, the team's 5th.
Excuse me, it's a 9-point lead. Ties for the largest lead. Apopka has to get some points. They don't need to do it in a tremendous amount, but
well, Neil, you and I have talked about this before. It's all about unanswered possessions. That if you're in a position that Wekiva's in,
profit with the steal.
If you're in a position that Wekiva's in where you got a 3 or 4 possession game, which is where we are right now, then Apopka has got to get back-to-back possessions that are not answered. And you can keep going back and forth, trading basket for basket all day. And now they have an opportunity to do just that. Elijah Lewis gets the basket and a chance to make it a 3-point play. Foul called against Austin Roll, his 3rd, the team's 6th. And that also now means that both teams will enjoy bonus for the remainder of the ball game.
So Wekiva off to its best start in history, even better than its state championship runner-up season. 9-1 record as Lewis completes the old school 3-point play. And just like that, the lead now down to 6. Wekiva was threatening to get it up to double digits in its largest of the game about 20 seconds ago. Still, though, 6-point lead. They are in control. They can dictate the terms. That's Robinson, the former Blue Darter. And some stop-and-go, juke and jive moves, and he draws the foul with 2:28 remaining. He'll go to the line with 6 points.
Foul called against Darters, number 12, Elijah Lewis. That's his 5th personal foul.
And as you heard Mark say,
well, hey, hold on. We're gonna review who the foul was on.
The team fouls.
If it was Lewis, then it's his 5th foul of the game and he's out. But
in the meantime, though, the team fouls 8 for Apopka, and both teams in the bonus the rest of the way. 2:28 remaining.
Correction, the foul is called against number 4, Jordan Ford. That'll be his 1st foul. The team's 8th, KJ Robinson shooting bonus.
And as you just heard Mark say, he was our public address announcer. That foul was not called on Lewis. They changed the number. So Lewis will stay in, but he does, of course, have the 4 fouls.
And so does Philip Tepper. So you have 2 players in the game right now looking at 4 fouls.
And so Robinson cannot get the 2nd, does get the 1st. That's critical because that makes it a 3-possession game with 2:22 remaining. Now Lewis again with those 4 fouls on his counterpart number-wise. And there's a loose pass, and Livingston!
Darius Livingston steals the Mustang dunk! And you see the crowd roaring their approval.
Yeah, and Mark, you talk about it all the time. Livingston gets credit with the steal in the basket. As Tepper launches, that's going to be short air ball. Scramble along the baseline. Hankerson gets his hands, but can't stay
out of bounds on the rebound. Mustangs ball.
So that last possession, it was really Charles who hassled Lewis into losing that ball. 1:54 remaining, 63-54 lead for Wekiva. The crosstown rivalry in Apopka.
I just saw Coach Lubin almost sent Malachi Hampton and Isaiah Bannister back into the game. Ultimately changed his mind, but it's good to know that Bannister is ready to play.
Yeah, of course, Bannister injured about 5 minutes ago. His Prophet can't find the range, can't connect. So Apopka dodges the proverbial bullet. That would have been a big nail in the proverbial coffin if it had gone down at the other end. Still can't get the ball to drop. Marshall, and he gets his hand on it. Some luck there. Prophet picks it up like a receiver.
2 guys go down. That's Prophet and Lewis get tangled up. It's a no call. And now picked off at the other end by Austin Roll. And now Wekiva is going to slow it down. Wekiva pumps the brakes. They are up by 9 with 63 seconds. And we're going to have to see now if Apopka goes with the red defense or if they decide to let this one run out. I'm not really sure why Robinson felt the need to launch the trade there, but it ends up working out as we get Abia Charles and 1.
So Charles, who came off the bench, and he's been a big part of this game, continues to make his presence felt. He'll go to the line, as you just heard Mark say.
Philip Tepper is called on his 5th personal foul. He'll retire from the game with 2 points for the Darters. The basket is good by Abia Charles. He'll be at the line shooting for the 3-point play. And now we'll get a quick little fire drill here as Tepper had to come out, but will make a lot of personnel changes. Yeah, and I think at this point the game has been conceded because everybody's switching out for everybody.
Yeah, and a key to the game, mentioned it a couple of other times, has really been Wekiva's help, Philip Tepper, a guy who averages double digits. Of course, if you follow Apopka basketball, even if you don't, Mark and I have had an opportunity to call 3 or 4 Apopka games this season. He's been held to 2 points, so certainly an uncharacteristic game for him as we get a timeout.
Full timeout requested by Wekiva.
And so, as Mark said, it's now time you put in your non-starters, give them some playing time with 53.9 seconds left and an 11-point lead. Also, Wekiva also held Jordan Ford. He came out a house of fire, scoring a couple of 3-pointers in the first couple of minutes. He has not scored since then. So those are your 2 keys in terms of players. And we'll come back for those last 54 seconds as Wekiva looks like it's on its way to a 10-1 start. And so Abia Charles at the line. Abiel with 12 points tonight. He's number 2 for all the scores. Darius Livingston leading all scores with 13. But want to talk about Charles, obviously his impact coming off the bench. You can see that in the points. And, of course, he has an opportunity to tie that lead, get 13, and he does. However, he has really been felt all around. He's been, as you like to say, master of nothing specific, but he has contributed but been solid in all the roles. He's rebounded. His defense has been tremendous. As we mentioned about 30 seconds ago, the last turnover for Apopka, which I really felt put the final nail in the coffin. Darius Livingston got a turnover from Elijah Lewis. The ball came loose, and then he slammed the ball home. But it was Charles' one-on-one coverage that he just hassled Lewis into that turnover to begin with. So Wekiva, as we come down to the last 25 seconds or so, they will go 10-1.
10-3 for Malachi Brave. So he gets his name in the scorebook as Wekiva, of course, primarily trying to not foul there.
Apopka dropped to 4-5. Coach Williams will have to go back to the drawing board. Uncharacteristic for them, but certainly Wekiva continues its best start since the 2000, and even better start since the 2017 season when they went to the state final. In the meantime, a 10-2 run. The story of tonight's game, 10 lead changes. Wekiva took the lead on the first 2 of those 10 points in that 10-2 run, and they did not lose. They never trailed since then. Also want to give a quick shout out now before we close it out tonight. Once again, we wish the best to Keith Dickinson, who will be moving on to another job. He has held the broadcast production department head for the last several years, and of course has overseen the video aspects of this. So once again, Mark, close us out.
Takes us to the end of the ball game and to the end of the first half of season 16. It's a 66-57 victory for the Mustangs, a 9-point win as we close out this week of basketball action. The Mustangs will be up in Illinois over the holidays, and then we hope you'll join us much more here at Mustang Arena when we get back in January. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Wekiva Sports, and bookmark WekivaMustangs.com for all of your scores, schedules, and more. For those of you in the arena, please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Those of you listening to us on YouTube, NFHS Network or Varsity Sports Network, thanks for spending part of your Friday night with us here in Mustang Arena. We look forward to seeing you in January. Until then, have a safe and happy holiday. For Neil Fisher, this is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs and executive producer of Wekiva Sports on YouTube, VSN, and NFHS Network. Again, I want to echo Neil's comments, thanking Keith Gerson for all that he has done, bringing you these video productions. It's been a presentation of Wekiva High School Athletics in association with Orange Technical College, both a proud part of Orange County Public Schools. We'll see you in January. Till then, good night from Mustang